You've got the Republican state treasurers and a group called the State Financial Officers Foundation.
Now, we won't be doing business with any bank in the state treasurer's office that chooses to discriminate against essentially half the population.
It really is counter to the American way of doing business.
Right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's going to create perverse incentives in the marketplace.
It's very unfortunate for the great people in America that have worked hard and saved and tried to be diligent with their credit.
The treasurer kind enough to join us now. Very good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
Tell us what bugs you most about this and why you want to put a stop to it.
Yeah, so it's just another example of the Biden and his administration, President Biden, chipping away at the American dream. They're hurting people who play by the rules with these new mortgage fees, just like they're trying to hurt people who play by the rules with student loans.
It gives me a great pleasure now to introduce a fighter on the front lines from the state level. My good friend Allison Ball, who is the state treasurer of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and she, along with other state officials around the country, have been leading the fight against ESG investing.
Treasurer Riley Moore and Utah Treasurer Marlo Oaks, they both signed the letter. They joined us live from their respective states. Riley, let's start with you. This is not fair, is it?
No, absolutely not. And, this is kind of typical of the liberal equity agenda where there's rules in place. And when they don't get the outcomes that they desire, well, let's change the rules.
It really is counter to the American way of doing business. We teach people, as part of our financial literacy efforts here in the state to pay off your debts and increase your credit score. And you'll be in a position to borrow money. And now this flies in the face of that. It really distorts the market, as Treasurer Moore said. And it's another example of what I call the invisible fist of the marketplace.
Sure.
Coming in and punishing people who are trying to do the right thing.
Well, you're calling for the removal of Larry Fink over what you're calling whacktivism. Explain all of this and walk us through what's happening.
Well, this is completely avoidable, what's happened with whacktivism and ESG policies. ESG, especially during this period of Bidenomics, needs to be focused on energy independence, safe neighborhoods, and good government. And the reason that I called on Larry Fink to be fired is that in North Carolina, when you don't do your job, that's what happens to you. We never hired BlackRock to politicize the money of those that teach, protect, and otherwise serve. What we hired BlackRock to do was to make us money, and that's why I called on him to be fired last December, and I'm joined by many other state treasurers and even attorney generals as they try to attack this whacktivism. The word fiduciary has not changed over my lifetime or your lifetime. It means to exercise a loyal and duty of care.
What we have right now are large investment management firms like BlackRock that are putting their thumbs on the scale. So we talked about the numbers, the 6.25 and the $6.7 billion.
Schroeder and his team made a big decision. They flipped the ESG script.
I moved $800 million in the last year.
If money talks, then the chatter is growing louder. The idea has caught on in Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and West Virginia, all states looking to fight what they call woke investing.
Oklahoma's treasurer has announced the state will stop doing business with more than a dozen financial firms after finding they engaged in energy boycotts.
It's impacting some of the largest asset managers and banks in the country, including BlackRock, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and State Street.
Joining us now, the man himself, Oklahoma Treasurer Todd Russ. Todd, good to see you. What do you expect to accomplish with these boycotts?
Well, we're trying to, send a message to these money managers that are really kind of turning their nose on oil and gas states like Oklahoma, and send them the message that we still believe that energy is important to our national security and our American way of life, and hope they get that message.
ESG investing, environmental social governance investing, to put it bluntly, this is the way for large banks and fund managers to drive a social agenda into our society without going through Congress or the courts. What we're saying as market participants, if you're going to drive that agenda and go against some of the signature industries of our state, we don't have to do business with you. So together we've had 8 states divest over $5 billion from BlackRock, for example.
Fantastic. We just talked about it being a new religion. What is it you think is happening at the individual level to have wokeness take such a prominent role in everyone's worldview?
Yeah, wokeness has definitely become a new religion in America. The good news is that our organization represents 28 states across the country.
We've got a lot of challenges facing our country. Our country just got downgraded last week, and it's time to look to the states for these solutions.